see. I sent a reminder out about an hour ago or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, shall we get started?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
part do you want to start with?
Oh, okay. Well, I just had like two main items here. The leadership roles, and then the talking about the online community event a little bit. So anyway, so we start with the okay, well, president is the biggest one, right? Or shall we start with the ones we already know?
Well, I would say the whole, I wouldn't call it just the president discussion. I would call it kind of a leadership discussion. And as I've been thinking about it in preparation for this meeting, I realized I'm just going to put my feelings out there and say what I think. And then you can tell me like if I'm off the wall or crazy. But it just seems to me that for a year and a half, Transition Longfellow has kind of been floundering around. There hasn't really been that leadership. Correct. And it might be that we don't have the leadership positions defined. Maybe we're asking the wrong questions of ourselves at the meetings. I think that whatever it is, if we're going to be an organization that takes advantage of this unique specific time period that we have right now to take advantage of, if we're not going to do it, then we probably don't even need to get together anymore. Because it seems to me like, our monthly planning meetings we get together, we have a good time, we like each other, it's fun. But we ask ourselves about pancake breakfast or whatever, but we don't ever stop and ask ourselves the really important questions from my perspective, like what is happening in the world right now that we could take advantage of to spread the transition message to people of Longfellow? And given the situation that's involved, what do we have available to do that with? We don't ever have those conversations. They don't get, because we're trying to get through these once a month meetings that happen fairly quickly. When we were at the coffee shop, we were limited to basically a little over an hour. And by the time we get our personal niceties out of the way, talk the basic structures of the business, the meeting's over, and we never really do any additional planning or anything else. And as a result, nothing happens. And so we just keep doing that same thing over and over. And so I think, I would like it to be different than that, because I joined because I would like to do stuff and have people to do it with, to forward this movement, because I think it's important. And so I would like to come up with a different method for doing that works, because I don't think it has been. And I think that if that's the leadership structure, if that's simply the organization of our meetings, doesn't mean you need to have more meetings. That's a whole big can of leadership worms. But that's really the conversation I think we need to start having very realistically, or we won't do anything. We'll just keep doing what we've been doing.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I can add my 2 cents worth unless somebody else wants to go before me. I very much agree with your perspective. I really think we need to have an identified person be the lead, whether that person is the president or whether they're the facilitator of the planning group, whatever. We need someone with leadership experience and or skills that can lead us. There's a lot, I think we've lost a lot in the last year and a half because of the way we've functioned. And so I think we've lost a lot of people that could have been interested, that could have been more involved. So I think we're going to have to build and expand, and if we want to keep going. And I think that's going to start with having a designated leadership role. Again, however you want to call it, doesn't matter to me. I like the way you're framing, you know, the question is what's going on in the world and what do we have to add to that? How can we help the people in Longfellow? I think that's a great perspective to have. And I think we do have some activities that we'll probably want to keep doing, but hopefully we can expand in other ways as well. So, and I'm interested in helping out in the planning committee. I am not interested in a leadership role per se, and I never saw the treasurer role as a leadership role.
Yeah.
Just,
Well,
yeah.
it's the you know, not to be, I don't mean this in an insulting way. I actually mean it with it's the bean counter, which is an important role because if we have beans, we need to count them. And if we're going to ask people to give us beans, we need to be able to handle them professionally and stuff. So it's an important role. Yeah.
So that's what I, you know, thought I signed up for, and I tried to help be a part of the team and help out where I can. But I don't see myself in the leadership role. So I just wanted to be clear on that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I don't see myself in a leadership role either. I'm really good at secretarial kinds of things, detailed things, keeping track of things, sending out notices about meetings, reminders, minutes, agendas, those kinds of things. That's what I've always, I'm good at and was my job when I was working. And I'm not really good at like big ideas, bigger picture kinds of things. Seeing, I liked a lot of the things that Leslie and Peter did that brought people together. I liked the movies and potluck things that I really loved. That's what really brought me into the group where we got a lot of people together and neighbors together, people with the same, thoughts and values, and we learned a lot of stuff through the movies that we did. So and a lot of the things were brought people together to learn things, the climate conversations and those kinds of things. But I can definitely help work on projects and activities and so forth. But I'm not really good at inspiring people to, go on, and here's my broad vision and here's how I see things. And so, you're really good at that, Mike. So I guess that's where I'm coming from.
You're also kind of our group historian, wouldn't you say?
Oh, right. I've been around here a long time. Yeah.
But that's really helpful.
And I have records of what we've done. In my computer of all the things that we've done over the years, and records of, and I can go back and look and see what we did in 2015, in July of that year or whatever,
Yeah.
So I'm curious.
But I wonder if we need to, we could get other people's idea to Emily's and Andrew's too.
Yeah, and I'm curious, Emily, because Emily and Andrew just came in, but Emily has listened to the whole conversation so far. I'm curious what her perspective is, how she thinks or feels about all that.
Yeah, since I've started with Transition Longfellow, I think that the sense that I get is that a lot of people they like the idea of Transition Longfellow and they like doing activities, but we don't have a leader, and I don't think we're going to find one, because I think they would have stepped up by now in the past year or so. Mike, with you, you've done a ton, but you don't want to, I understand, be like the leader. We've had 2 presidents that have not really been, I don't know what their role necessarily was, but we've gone through a few presidents. And so I don't know what we do, but I don't feel very hopeful that we will find a leader, because like I said, I think we would have probably found them by now. And so I don't know if now that it's COVID and more virtual events, I don't know how Leslie would feel about trying to do some stuff if she knows that, or if I wonder how she feels just knowing that this group that essentially she kind of made is dissolving, and if she would want to have any role in that.
She does want it. She does. She did say she would help out with.
Yeah,
with
did you see her email sometime in the last couple of weeks offering to come to a meeting?
Yeah.
Emily, you didn't? Oh, okay. I thought you were on it. I apologize. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's also interesting because I would argue there's what comes first, the chicken or the egg. It's hard to have a leader come forward when there's not really a structure or thing to step into to lead.
Yeah.
And there's no defined anything. There's no even vision. There's just nothing there to put forward. And so, that's just my perspective. And so in thinking about that and in thinking about this online opportunity, which is the other part of the agenda, I'm just going to start blending some of that into this conversation and see, maybe that's an opportunity to, for this group to experiment and figure out, is there a way for us to begin engaging the community in terms of helping educate them what is the transition movement, what are the issues that are going on in transitioning in our community now, and where are the resources within our community that might come forward. Just a conversation about that within the transition structure, and see if any leaders show up. And in the interim, see if we can, figure out, what do we really want to do? How do we want to structure our leadership so that we've got something to invite them to come in and participate in that would be effective. But right now, I don't think we have that. But so if we did both of those things sort of in tandem, have it be almost like a virtual open house, an online virtual open house where we have some conversations, we have some discussions, we meet some of the transition people. We, maybe Leslie could do an online presentation about the transition movement, Transition Twin Cities, and we talk about how, we want to bring that into the Longfellow area more than we have, and identify some of the key things that we would like to invite people to bring to our movement. There's a couple of things that I think are urgently important. I think we need to find a way of engaging more young people, and I think we need to find a way of engaging more people of color. Absolutely.
I was going to say that something similar, yeah, especially about the families with children, younger families. If we could get more of those folks who are interested. So yeah.
But I think too, we need to find out what is the most important thing for people. I mean, related to transition. I mean, what are people most concerned about? I mean, unless we find out what people are really want to see happen, or what they're really concerned about, or what transition could help with in people's lives in the, that, I mean, it's just going to be theoretical, talk, kind of generalities. So like being more specific in their lives, and what will transition bring to them too. I mean, what is it about transition that would help people, especially now in this time of the pandemic, and maybe making the connection between climate change and pandemic, I don't think people are making any connection there, you know?
And looking at the very specific concrete things that are happening in our community right now, like these homeless encampments that are popping up all over. You know, you look at the socioeconomic situation that we are in because of the combination of the COVID shutdown, the disease issues, and you start layering things like climate and stuff on top of that. That is all the core of the transition movement. And, you know, we should be to bring the you know, help people understand that I believe we're seeing, you know, we talk about conceptually collapse, but I think collapse is here, folks. We're seeing it happen right in front of our very eyes. And it's only going to be getting worse. And so how do we as a community begin to provide support and encouragement and share resources in new and creative ways? How do we reach out to those people coordinating those homeless encampments so as they continue to grow bigger, because they're going to, how do we, you know, bring them into the fold, and how do we also support those efforts and things? I think we need to, on a regular basis, sit down and have those conversations and invite those people to come and talk to us, you know, at our meetings about what they need, what they see going on. And I think we just need to start doing that kind of stuff.
I would add on to that too. I mean, all of that, but also, you know, how the pandemic has affected people's employment, and what does it mean for jobs that may not ever come back. And I think there's a lot of them in this neighborhood, restaurants and places like that, you know, as this unfolds, they may never come back the way they are, or, you know, something different might happen. Education, you know, there's a whole conversation around what's going to happen in a few weeks, come, you know, time for school to reopen, and how does that happen? And I don't know whether this open house, this transition kind of thing includes that kind of conversation as well, to make it inviting for neighbors to listen to maybe some expert or some opinions about that, but also be able to share, you know, their concerns or impact. We're also competing against a lot of different Zoom meetings and other things.
Well, I don't have a lot, but I suppose a lot of people do, especially those who are still working.
So it seems like, you know, there could be, I don't know, a combination of, you know, what is transition, you know, just in a broad sense, but also how that applies here in our particular, you know, neighborhood and area, and impacts that people are recognizing.
You know, I think that that was how I kind of started becoming involved, as we had, like, I think probably a year ago in January, February, I think we kind of had exactly like what you were talking about, which is having these conversations within Transition Longfellow. Leslie was very intentional. I'm stepping down. We need a new leadership structure. A lot of people are at those meetings. And then I guess here we are a year and a half later with still kind of not really a defined, you know, consistent leader. And so I guess I just feel like we did that already, and there's probably less momentum now because a lot of folks have just stopped paying attention because there hasn't been much going on. So
and because they're really involved in just survival right now, and you know, especially if they have families and trying to survive, you know, bring in some income if they don't have a job. I mean, they're just struggling to survive. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of people just sitting out there, you know, wondering what they can do with their lives or get involved in, you know, because they're really working hard. They're struggling. And
there are people in that category, but there's also a lot of people who are feeling passionately about wanting to do something. They've got this urge and desire and these feelings, and there isn't an easy way to plug in to feel like you're making a difference. And they feel like, you know, one minute they're being called to go protest for Black Lives Matter or against police brutality to, you know, then they're looking at climate stuff. There's no place that brings all that together in a comprehensive, coherent way. And I think that if we did that in a way that we could, you know, we could really help channel those people's feelings in a constructive way. But if we're not going to really have anything help them do, then they're just going to keep feeling that way. But I think if we tapped into it, we would get people who would show up who are feeling that way, who do want to do something.
Well, then how do we reach those folks? You know, I mean, we need to bring more people in, like you're saying, and how do we reach them?
Well, I think one thing we could do almost immediately would be to have this sort of virtual open house, this online gathering.
Okay.
And so that's why I would go back to saying maybe a two-track approach. We continue having the leadership conversation, thinking about what's the leadership structure look like, thinking about what's really the vision, what are the goals along this track, as we figure out what is this online, you know, event going to be like. I would really like it, you know, I would love it if Leslie, we'll have to ask Leslie right away, if she would sort of, you know, do an opening presentation about what is transition, what are some of the current things happening in our society that point to the fact that, yes, social collapse isn't something down the road, it's already started, here it is.
Yep.
Here are the things that, you know, transition talks about to help us be more resilient and be prepared. They're not all icky, heavy-handed, scary things. You know, that's where you can bring in the gardening and all these things. And Transition Longfellow is here, and you know that invite. What's that menu of things that's important for us to have at that meeting? How do we, you know, engage those topics for those people? We need to start having that conversation. I have a couple of presentation-y kinds of things I would like to include in that event. That would be
great.
Okay, tell us more.
Well, there's one I can't really tell you too much about,
Okay.
other than to say there is an experience that I've done with students in a variety of settings. I have done it virtually online. It's a participatory experience that is designed to help people figure out how they work together. And maybe what we could do is schedule a small group event where we had the experience of doing it as Transition Longfellow and some other folks. We would want to have a minimum of like 12 people get together to do it. And it would be a way for us to look at, it's a way for us to assess how we work together and how we as a group collective make decisions. And it's an experiential way of kind of looking at what drives humans in general through those experiences. And we as a community need to start putting our fingers on those things, because as things like water scarcity or food scarcity, those things come up, we have to know what that list is of ways that we go about making decisions about those things. So I think I would like to do that with a small group, and then you all tell me what you think about it. There's no way to describe it. You have to experience it. It's sort of like watching a movie. It's experiential learning. It's not a lecture.
Okay, but it's something that can be done remotely or via Zoom?
Absolutely, you bet. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, but what you do is we need to be able to split into 2 teams. So I need to be able to split people into 2 groups. There needs to be 2 facilitators, because there's a facilitator for each group. And that's all we need to be able to do. So it's easy to do. It actually works great via Zoom. I've done it, you know, with leadership teams via, other tech, not Zoom, but I've done, other video conferencing technologies that way, and it works great. It's a very insightful experience. People usually get a lot of value from it. And I really think it's a conversation that would help us, like if it opens up a conversation potentially with our city officials, and all kinds of other people who are in our policy making world. It really to look at what is driving us in our decisions. Are we making decisions and voting based on what's in it for me, or am I looking at how do we make decisions for the collective instead of me?
Oh.
It's an exploratory way of getting at the core of that.
Okay.
Sounds good.
It does. It sounds pretty intriguing.
It's fun.
And,
it's a lot of
so
fun.
are you suggesting? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Are you suggesting this for part of the virtual open house, or as a separate thing for people who might identify as being on the planning committee?
Either one.
Okay.
We could even do it as part of a leadership group, or people who want to be in the planning meeting, and then we could decide if we want to have it as part of the open house. It'll take, that chunk will take a good solid hour, and you're not going to get it at less than an hour for that one thing.
Okay.
And it's probably an hour and a half more like it if you want to have really time to process through and have the discussion that has to happen after. So an hour to an hour and a half.
Personally, I'd rather do it on a separate day than the virtual open house.
Yeah.
Take up a big chunk of time for the virtual open house.
It's a big chunk. Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
Sounds like a good.
And again, it's not, the time will go fast because you're not, it's not a lecture. You're not sitting there listening to something.
Yeah.
So,
what do you think, Emily?
I mean, we could try it, I guess. Well, actually, one of my thoughts or ideas would also be to try to partner with some of the other transition groups. Like, I know I went to the St. Anthony transition group, and they very much have a kind of a co-leader model. And so I think that's what maybe we were hoping to do with ours. So like, they don't really have one president or one strong leader. They have maybe 4, 5, 6 people, and it seems to work fairly well with them. So I'd be curious kind of to talk with them and see how they've been able to make that co-leadership model work.
Good.
Great idea.
Good. Yes.
Yeah, that is a good idea. Do you know how long they've been doing that? How long they've had a model like that?
I don't know. I almost think that that's kind of how they started, or how it started. I don't know if they ever had like one core person that did it. I think different folks are, one person's kind of in charge of this, and one person helps with that, and it seems, it seems like it works for them. So maybe they would be able to give us some advice or support with that.
Okay.
I think that's good.
I don't have anything else to really say other than that.
Well, we just need to set some dates, or
I think that would be good. Do you think we could get a group of 12 people together, for example, to have this this special meeting that I talked about? And do you think it would be realistic for us to commit to getting a bare minimum of 12 people to that meeting?
Well, it would depend on who it is we're going to talk to about it, because we don't even have 12 people on our planning group.
But don't we have quite a few people who follow the Transition Longfellow Facebook page?
Yeah.
So we can try to get some posts out there.
Yeah.
To generate some interest.
Facebook, and then do we have an email list? Did Leslie pass on to you an email list, Mike?
Oh yeah, and we have that integrated into the website. So whenever we post anything in the blog, it automatically emails that entire list with a link to the new blog post.
So a blog posting plus Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't remember. I'm trying to think. I'm in the neighborhood of about 1,000 people on the email list.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
And there's quite a few people who follow the Facebook page. When we post something on the website, it gets activity, and we certainly could do things like post stuff out at nextdoor.com. You can reach 20,000 people that way pretty easily.
Right. Yeah. See, I don't look at Facebook all the time. I look at email all the time.
Right.
Numerous times during the day, I'll look at email. I don't look at Facebook that much. I'll look at Nextdoor maybe once every 2 days or so.
Yeah.
I don't know what the most thing that, don't you think that is, instead of traditional US mail, people use email now as their go-to for any kind of basic communication. Maybe they use Facebook for that too, but but email is more specific to one person, to individual people, as Facebook goes, everybody can see that, but that's what most people would see and would pay attention to, was an email.
Yeah. When you post on Facebook, only about 10% of your followers will actually see it, if you're lucky.
Email.
So,
I think you're right about the email, particularly because more and more people are working remotely. And so email is just now part of their daily routine.
So how about this? Radical idea. I'll write up a little teaser about this event and say that it has to do with leadership development at Transition Longfellow, and anyone who's interested in, are attending this event who might be interested in having some leadership role in the transition movement, you can attend for free. You have to RSVP, blah blah blah, and I'll send it around to you to see what you all think. How about that?
Okay.
And then we set a limit of the first 20 people who register can come for free.
Okay. And do we want to push the date out? Are we going to give them a date, or wait till we hear from people and then try to find a date that works for most people? I'm just thinking we probably want to give ourselves some time to generate the interest.
I think we should give ourselves some time to generate the interest, and I think that we should give them a date. So I think we should pick a date. Okay. And I don't know if it's better to do evenings or weekends. I think people are so much going back to work now that the daytime during the week is probably shot again. But,
yep.
So I don't know, does anybody have a preference for evenings or weekends or weekend evenings or?
People with children, if that's an audience we're trying to reach, we are not the people because we don't have children. So
I'm not either. So
how would that be done?
Right, but I don't think weekend evenings are good, especially not for me. I mean, I would rather not do them. A weekend day or a weeknight evening would be fine.
What about like a Sunday afternoon, like after the church hour? Because I know some people do that. So like
Mhm.
3, 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. Is that too weird?
No, I don't think it's too weird. I just, you know, in Minnesota, Sunday or weekends are usually for going up north. And I don't know how many people are able to do that now, or still
Well,
doing
I
it.
think
But I
people-
think that
I
would be the
plan
only
on do-
drawback.
I plan on doing that, so
Yeah.
I think people are going up north, yes. I think it might be better, well, I don't know. I mean, because we're into the vacation time. We're in the vacation time too. I mean, people are gonna go away. Then this is, you know, this is probably between now and the end of August is when they're gonna be going away, you know, and we don't wanna lose, because I know I will be gone for a while in August. And yeah, so I don't, you know, so we could pick a date, but I think like maybe a weeknight or a Sunday afternoon would be fine for me.
Why don't we do one of the, like when we have the leadership meetings usually. So it could be even like the second Wednesday in August if we don't do a meeting instead. Yeah, if we just do it for our next meeting, second Wednesday in August, maybe later than.
I'll be gone then.
Okay.
How about the 19th? Because that's the 3rd, which is when we normally meet.
Yeah.
August 19th.
August
So
19th?
August 19th.
Yeah, isn't that our normal?
I think that's a great idea.
August 19th. Okay.
Okay.
I think it's a great idea. And we'll just plan on having it be a slightly longer meeting, and we can maybe touch base any business we have to do, then we'll do that thing. We'll get as many there, and we'll just, because we'll maybe, hopefully, if we're good at recruiting people, have more people there, and we can maybe have an agenda for the meeting that's more vision oriented. You know, maybe then we're already inviting them into our planning structure.
Yeah, I like that.
So there's a double extra bang for the buck there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have another kind of suggestion or idea, something to try with the leadership role. What if we somehow kind of offered a stipend for whoever, if we're looking for one leader or a president, you know, and if we have funds or if we're using, why not offer a stipend for people to do that? And would that cause more interest in doing it if people were getting, I don't know what, $500 or something like that to make it, to do that role?
I'm not convinced that that'll be helpful. I really am more interested in this shared team idea that you had from St. Anthony. And I just want, when we have this laundry list of things, you know, that are important to transition, if we can attract people who will be really passionate about those things and being a leader in that thing, and we bring them to our planning meetings, if we can have the right structure and ask the right questions at the planning meetings, I think those things alone might help us take a giant step forward.
Right.
Asking the right questions and getting the people who are passionate about those things to the table are the things that we have to do, I think. And, you know.
So what things do we list as far as what people might be passionate about? You know, I mean, how do we know we're getting the right list? I mean, how do we decide on those things, you know?
Well, we have to have that conversation, but we have a starting point because we have topics on the website, which is like growing food, raising food, energy production, energy conservation, all those things that make our lives more resilient, that are super critical and of growing importance now because of all the changes happening in our society. All those things become more critically important. And having that conversation in this context, I think is, you know, kind of the goal. So we have a big chunk of the laundry list already. because it's, you know, links that we have out there on the website.
Okay.
And so if you can attract people who are interested in those things, who want to, you know, take things on in those areas. And there are things on the list that I would be interested in having some leadership role about. I don't want to be the one who does the whole thing.
Right.
Okay.
But if we're going to have co-leaders, then we aren't going to have one person who's responsible for the whole thing. It's going to be
Right.
We could have a set structure for how the meeting flows, so that we make sure each of those people is included.
Yes.
And so that they have a job to do at those meetings. You know, and that way no one person has to be in charge.
Right. Good.
Right. And if one person isn't able to make it 1 month, we're not completely dead in the water then. We have other people in other areas that we're looking at. I like it. I'd also like to suggest that maybe each one of us on this call could agree to contact 3 people personally to try to ask them to come to the August 19th. So in addition to just reaching out on Facebook and the website, but to try to actually have a conversation with a couple people to try to persuade them to come.
I'm going to do that if I can add one additional request to it.
Okay.
I have some very dear friends on Facebook. I don't know them well personally, but I connect with them a lot on Facebook, who walk this very fine line of being very connected politically. Like one of them is, you know, connected to Ilhan and other, you know, political figures, but is also very active in the Black community. And so is crazy busy right now. But I would like to find somebody that fits that niche. I've got a couple of people in mind that I would like to invite to talk to us about what do we need to do? What do we need to change so that we're more inviting to people of color? And because I believe that things like, I think that we need to take on big topics in that area. Social justice issues are really important to transition. So having the conversation about reparations, we should be having that conversation.
Yeah.
We can't let the Black community be responsible for that conversation. That's a white person problem. Us old white people, we're the ones who caused that problem. We're the ones who have to be talking about it, and we're the ones who have to be trying to fix it. And so how do we have that conversation, and how do we ask those people, how do we become more inviting to them in the process? Because I think we have to broach, you know, reparations, truth and reconciliation. I don't think we can honestly address climate change until we take on and start ticking off some of those other social justice issues, because those are the people most affected by those things. And if we're not plugged in and paying attention to that and working to address that, we're never going to get to be able to fix those much bigger, more complicated issues. So that's one thing. I'll do that, but I'll have to ask them but I'm going to ask them not to come to the meeting to listen. I'm going to ask them to come to the meeting to present to us.
Could I ask one clarifying thing about, we haven't talked about geographic boundaries. Is this limited to Longfellow, or sort of Longfellow broadly construed, or South Minneapolis, or are we doing away with the geographic boundaries? It's still Longfellow transition, so it's sort of kind of based in the neighborhood. Not that we need to answer that now, but
that was a big question. That was a big question when we were doing our meetings, when Leslie and Peter were leaving, and we got, you know, had these sessions like, where are we going with this? You know, what are we going to be doing, and who are we going to be? And those geographic boundaries, they came up a lot, and they you know, and we just never came to any resolution about it. It was, you know, I think whoever's really interested in joining us, you know.
We don't want to turn anyone away, I guess.
Exactly.
Or, yeah, that's kind of my thought is why not? Yeah, if somebody's willing to join in, that would be great.
And it was a big question about, should we keep the name as Transition Longfellow? Because if we want to expand our geographic boundaries, you know, and should we call it something else like Transition Now or Transition South Minneapolis or I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that sounds like a future problem.
Pandemic.
Yeah, if we get an influx of new people and more of them are not in Longfellow, then it's probably worth a discussion at that point.
Right.
That'd be a great problem to have.
Right.
I'd vote for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to have that problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I've got to go start organizing dinner for my family, so I'm going to excuse myself. I think we're about done, but thanks. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew.
So what we all have those of us here try to talk to 3 people.
Yep.
Yeah.
By when? I mean, was any
A week before the next meeting.
Yeah.
Before the next meeting?
Yeah. And the next meeting's the 19th, August 19th.
But I will
talking to, but they need. I mean, if we're going to have them come be. Now is that the night we're having this leadership a training kind of thing?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
So they need to know long before then.
Quick question. I don't think this is an issue, but does anybody know when the National Night Out is?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, actually, you can have it whenever you want it. We're having in our neighborhood on August 4th, the traditional first Tuesday of August. But
Okay.
but a lot of people are pushing it to September 15th. I mean, that's kind of the official September 15th. You can have either on August 4th or September 15th.
I always remember it coming in August. So,
August, yeah. What's the connection with September 15th?
Sure.
Interesting.
My birthday. Maybe it's because it's my birthday.
Okay, we'll bring a cake over that day. Oh, okay.
No, I don't know why they pick. It's the Tuesday probably, but I don't know why. I don't know why they picked September 15th. I just know that I don't want to do National Night Out on my birthday.
Okay, so there's no conflict there. That's great.
Right.
All right, cool. So maybe we can just be in touch with one another before the 19th to make sure we have an agenda that can be appealing to people. Yeah. Just do it by email.
Yep. I think that works out great. And I'll get the blurb together. I'll get the schedule set up because I'll have registration. It'll be free, but I'll want people to register so that we know that they're coming and committed and all that. And it'll be by Zoom. And so there'll be a Zoom link for it.
Great. Okay.
All right.
Good.
So how soon do you think that would be? Just trying to get an idea.
Oh, I'll probably get something out within the next 4 days.
Oh, great. Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. And there are a couple people I don't know are on the email list. There's a couple people who came to your last fall who came to your open house. It was Amy and Tom. They had just moved back from California. They used to be in the transition group.
Oh.
And they live just a few blocks from me. They're great. I just love them. But I don't know how much they want to be involved now, but I just hope that they're still being contacted about everything.
Well, if they're on the email list, they are.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I can give you their names, I guess, to see if they're on that.
Yeah,
sounds great.
Email. All right, thanks a lot, guys.
And we'll be looking forward to your new hair by then, George.
Well, it's going to be the same hair. It's just going to be longer, probably.
Longer, maybe
Yeah.
bigger.
All right.
Maybe I'll be
All right.
bold and like take this off and take this
Ooh,
off and just let. Well, okay.
it'll be wild.
Here's kind of.
Oh, wow. That is a lot of hair.
It's
That's
a wild man.
And it's
Wow.
not. And it's it's kind of flat right now. Literally, I'm telling you, it's like it looks like Betty Ford.
So does it, if you don't have it in a ponytail when you're on a bike, does that slow you down? Having that much hair?
Well, I have a helmet, so it
Oh, the helmet, of
actually
course.
helps it a lot. Yes, it provides also it provides control, and B, it provides camouflage. Yeah.
And
But when I go to the food shelf, nobody seems to care. although some people I think kind of chuckle when I help them, when I get their food ready.
Yeah.
I come out, kind of look and go, oh.
COVID hair. COVID hair.
yeah.
Well, nobody's in this for their fashion, right?
Yeah.
No, this is fashion.
Absolutely.
Right, the ponytail look, yeah.
Yes,
Although I
you
don't have
start-
enough, I don't have nearly enough for ponytail.
All right.
I'm able to get into a salon and get my hair cut.
You guys are fine.
That's good. Okay. Talk to you
Okay.
soon.
Bye.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you soon. Good meeting.